Hello, this is Catalytics and welcome to today's session. In today's brief video, we are going to look at how we can apply the likelihood ratio test to verify whether a model is nested in the order. So here, the concepts of nested models are explained. So this document is one of Stata's documents. You can just Google it and then you have information about it. Just Google um, likelihood ratio test data and that information. This document will be available for you to read. Now, nested model simply has to do with the fact that the set of covariates of one model is a subset of the covariates of the other model. There are some assumptions that must also be made. One is the fact that the likelihood ratio test is valid only for models that are fit by maximum likelihood or by some equivalent method, and does not apply for models that were fit with probability weights or clusters. So when you use the VC robust options, it does not fit. So this one, we usually apply this code when we realize that normality assumptions are not met. Now, the third issue has to do with the fact that the likelihood ratio test assumes that under the null hypothesis, the test statistic is approximately distributed as R squared. And the assumption is not true for likelihood ratio tests for boundary conditions, such as tests for presence of overdispersion or random effects. So basically, this is something you need to know about this model. Now, let's go to the Stata platform and see how we can be able to verify whether our nested models are nested in one another or not. So there are three main things that you have to do before you can run the likelihood ratio test in Stata. First of all, you have to run the model. After running the model, you have to store the model estimates with a particular name. And the last thing is to run the likelihood ratio test. So first, you run the two models, one after the other. And then two, you store the estimates of the model one after the other. And lastly, you run the likelihood ratio test. So these three things are what we are going to use the Stata platform to do now. And at the end of the day, we'll be able to see if our models are nested in the order or not. So we are going to run a linear regression model. As usual, we are going to take our systolic blood pressure to be our dependent variable. And for the first model, we are going to include age, sex, marital status, location, occupation, and educational status. So the first model has all those variables. So now let's click on enter, and it runs the model. Now the next thing we have to do is that we have to store the estimates. So you type estimates store, and we are going to name it as Catalytics. So we are storing the estimates for this model as Catalytics. So it has stored it. Now we are going to run a second model that lacks two of the variables. So we have just age, sex, marital status, and location as the variable. So we have run it. Now we are going to store its estimate store here, name it connect. So we click on what? Okay. So now we have done the first two things. We have run the model. We have also estimated and stored the estimates. So now the last step is to run the likelihood ratio test. The likelihood ratio test is LRTEST. So now we want to Catalytics, and then connect. So likelihood ratio test of this and this. Now enter. So the null hypothesis is that this model is nested in this model. What does the p-value say? a p-value is not statistically significant, and so it is true that this hypothesis holds. So this model is nested in this. Now, mind you, these are links. So immediately you click on it, you'll be able to find the details of that model. When you click on it, you'll be able to find the details of that model. So basically, this is how you can be able to check if two models, one is nested in the other or not. Basically, as we mentioned in the earlier document, the covariate should be a subset of the other to qualify for this likelihood ratio test. And as we have seen, that is exactly what we have qualified. So as a recap, the three things you need to do to be able to run the likelihood ratio test. First, you have to run the model. Two, estimate and store the model with a variable, with a name. And lastly, you run the likelihood ratio test using this code. If you find content such as this useful, we encourage you to like, share, and keep coming to learn. Until we meet again on our next one, this is Cadulytics, and it's a bye.